Welcome back to the Goomba Stomp podcast. It's been a while, but hey, this is what we do, and we're talking Pokemon today. I have with me Tyler Swanson, as usual. How you doing today, Tyler?
I'm feeling pokerific.
Pokerific. All right. Terrific. Pokerific. Let's get into this. What we're going to be talking about with Pokemon X and Y coming out this weekend, actually, this Saturday. We're both excited, and we kind of wanted to do this just for fun, to do basically a top 3 favorite Pokemon from each generation, along with our least favorite one, and as well as a top 10 overall, and then talk about our favorite game in the series, our favorite type of Pokemon, and then just some thoughts on X and Y in general. So we'll kind of just touch on everything a little bit until, we run out of time. So let's just jump right into this. Starting with Generation 1, my personal favorite generation, obviously. Why don't you give me your first, or not your first, but obviously your number 3 favorite Pokemon?
Number 3 from Generation 1 is Haunter for me.
All right, why is that?
Haunter's a pretty cool guy. I like his design. I like how he has his little floating claws, and he's a ghost Pokemon. He feels a lot more ghosty than Gengar.
Yeah, I can understand that for sure. He definitely has that ghost vibe, whereas Gengar is more of like an actual, has some stature to him, so he seems more like an actual animal or thing. So I can definitely see where you're coming from there. All right. My number 3 is Bulbasaur, actually. And that could be Bulbasaur, Ivysaur, Venusaur. Just overall, I like Bulbasaur as a character and his evolution, so he definitely had to make my number 3 for the list. And he's just... I think it stems from the TV show. He had a lot of personality. Give the TV show wasn't the best. It's not as good as the games or, even the manga, but the TV show did, as kids, we did enjoy the TV show. And Bulbasaur really had a lot of personality. He has the kind of what I look for in a character. He didn't want to quit. He had the will, and he kept persevering, and he just kept wanting to be stronger, and he never felt like he was at his full potential. And I like that in Bulbasaur. So I always equated that with the Pokemon itself, not just that particular Bulbasaur in the anime. All right, so what was your number 2?
Number 2 for me is Zapdos. I thought he was just I always liked the electric Pokemon, and there wasn't really a lot of good electric Pokemon in first generation, in my opinion.
Yeah,
but
for
Zapdos
sure.
Zapdos was really cool because I liked his design, his jagged edges. He really gave off a lightning vibe.
You mean to tell me you like Zapdos more than Electabuzz?
I think Electabuzz is too fat. I don't know. He just looks... I'm not a big fan of Electabuzz. I like Elekid better.
Well, that's rude. I don't like him because he's too fat.
Well, I don't know. I don't like his design. I don't know.
No, I know what you're talking about.
I hated him in the show. I thought he was really annoying in the show. How he sounded.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, and I agree. I just wanted to kind of mess with you a little bit. But, all right, well, my second is actually Squirtle, another starter Pokemon. And that's always a tough choice for me. Was it Bulbasaur? Was it Squirtle? But of the two, I prefer Squirtle because, one, I like turtles as, like... I'm not a big fan of turtles in real life, but I do like turtles as, like, cartoons and characters, and just they look cute when they're in cartoons, etc. Be it Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, etc. But Squirtle, in the same vein as Bulbasaur, as in if there's one thing the anime did right, it's giving these particular Pokemon a lot of character, and Squirtle definitely was one of those to shine. He was just, with the Squirtle Squad and all that. He had a rough past, and it's like they gave these characters backstory and actual personality, like I said, and I think that really made them appeal more to me because of that. That personality and those almost like morals and values that these characters had and struggles that these characters had. Squirtle, had a rough past with this Squirtle Squad, which is actually kind of cool. It came from like a gang essentially in Pokemon, and Ash comes across him and kind of takes him under his wing, so to speak, and puts him on the right path in life, so to speak. And Squirtle is just another one of those guys that just never quits, and he just keeps going and gives it his all. And I really appreciate that. Plus, I prefer water over grass Pokemon, so that also gives Squirtle the edge in that category as well. All right, how about your number one?
My number one is actually Zubat, which a lot of people would question why.
Yes, why? So tell us why you like Zubat
I
the
don't know.
most.
I liked his he's really cute. Like he doesn't have eyes. He's a little bat. He's got those little tendrils that don't make any sense. And when I was a kid, I had a Zubat plushie that I think I got from like KFC, and like I took that thing with me everywhere. And I just loved it. I'm not sure why. It's something about Zubat. When I look at him, I just like him.
All right. I mean, hey, I'm sure everybody in the history of Pokemon has that one favorite. Maybe it's not their most favorite, but they like that one Pokemon a lot that other people didn't really see interest in, just because for something, be it during their childhood, or they had a toy of them, or it's just maybe the first person they caught, or they saw them first on the cartoon, which is actually what leads into my first favorite, and that is Meowth. And that's because when I first turned on Pokemon as a child, I remember seeing Meowth as my first Pokemon, and and obviously he has the advantage that he could talk, which, going back to the anime, gave him a whole lot of personality, more so than any of the other Pokemon, strictly because he had the ability to speak what he was saying. And not only that, not only did he speak, he was never bland. He always had something sarcastic, some little witty one-liner. But maybe nowadays the humor isn't as good. But as a kid, Meowth was hilarious. Meowth had that, like, he was the edgy Pokemon. He was with Team Rocket. He was the bad Pokemon. He's this cute little cat. And I'm not even a big fan of cats as animals, but I'm more of a dog person. But I really liked Meowth as a character. I liked the charm. And I just thought, like I said, with Team Rocket, I also like Team Rocket a lot as characters as well. So, you couple all that, and he definitely has the advantage with those, the lines that he says and the interactions. I mean, he even talks crap to the actual human characters. So there's a lot there with Meowth that you just don't get with any of the other ones. So ever since then, I've just been a big fan of him since day one. So it's kind of hard for him to be replaced no matter what. He's not the coolest looking one. He does have kind of a cute factor, but I think it's the spunk and the personality that drives me towards him. All right. So that pretty much wraps up Gen 1 there. So let's give our least favorite of Gen 1. Go ahead.
My least favorite has got to be Mr. Mime. I just hated him. Everything about him. His design, his stupid voice in the show, and there's no redeeming qualities in Mr. Mime at all.
I'm going to agree with you, because I actually put down Mr. Mime as well. Because after looking at all of the Gen 1 Pokemon and thinking back to the one that I cared for least or had no emotion towards, no fond memories of, and I look now as an adult looking at all of the Gen 1 Pokemon, and I just look at Mr. Mime, and he sticks out like a sore thumb. He's not cute. He's not based on an animal. He's not an inanimate object even, which, I'll get into my thoughts on that. He's just like, he's a human being, essentially. And that's weird, to be a human being Pokemon based on a mime. That's just so creepy. Why is he being kept in this little ball? Like it's just a really odd thing to have. So yeah, I agree with you on Mr. Mime. He's definitely the least favorite of mine, and apparently you as well, of Gen 1. All right, well, let's jump into Gen 2. I'll go first this time with my number 3. I liked Slowking. And I told the story to you once that, I first found out about Slowking by going to the
Once
local.
it was like an hour ago.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about on the podcast here. I'm not going to say a couple hours ago, but thanks for ruining the illusion. Anyways,
That's why I'm here.
exactly. All right. Well, apparently I've been outed. It was a couple hours ago because that's important to the listener. Was Slowking, and I first found out about him at a local comic book shop / card shop back in the day, and it was the only time I got to go there when I was a kid. And I saw the Pokemon cards of the next generation that weren't out in America yet, and they were of the Japanese, and they were still in Japanese writing. So I saw, but you didn't need to be able to read the name to see who it was, and it was clearly Slowpoke standing up with whatever the heck that is, a shell on his tail, and I thought that was really cool because I like Slowpoke as a character just because he's funny, he's odd, he's kind of weird, but he's got that very funny personality that makes you laugh as a kid just because he's so dumb and slow-witted, etc., and very lazy. But Slowking is the exact opposite. He's somehow now really smart. But I remember seeing him in that card shop, and I just thought that was so cool because that was the first time I saw an evolution to, that wasn't pre-existing right there. So it was just something new for me. Plus, once the Pokemon 2, the second movie came out, and, he could talk and he had his little funny lines, it made me enjoy him even more. So that'd be why he's my number 3.
Yeah, and I can feel you there. He's got a really nice design, and overall, he was an interesting. He was also, I think, the first one I saw that was an alternate evolution of the first one too for me, and I thought that was really cool that they were making evolutions of already fully evolved Pokemon. So I was digging that.
All right, well, who's your number 3?
My number 3 is Heracross. I think Heracross is pretty cool because I always like stag beetles. I think they're really cool insects, and he's got that really awesome horn. And then he gets that Mega Horn ability that like no other bug Pokemon had, which was really cool. He just kind of gave bug type like muscle, like he was a strong bug Pokemon because all the bug Pokemon were pretty weak and
Gen
uneventful.
1.
Yeah, outside of like using Butterfree to beat Brock at the beginning of the game, like you never really used bug Pokemon. But like Heracross was like a viable threat like all throughout the game.
And Butterfree had the advantage of being in the anime and being prominently featured for a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I guess Scyther and Pinsir are, well, not really Pinsir, but Scyther's cool, but
The only fond memory I have of Pinsir is from Pokemon Snap, where you got to line up the objects to form Pinsir's shadow. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
That's the only thing I remember about that character. But yeah, Scyther was definitely one that people thought was pretty cool. Just like design wise, he looked really awesome, and you could only catch him in the bug catching, Safari Zone. But yeah,
you could catch him in the bug catching contest. But that was Generation 2.
Yeah. So yeah, I can definitely see where you're coming there. They Heracross adds to the bug Pokemon, which were kind of weak in the first one, so he definitely makes them a little bit more prominent with more of a stronger character to represent them. So I can definitely see where you're coming from there. Personally, I'm not a big fan of like beetles and stuff like that, but I can see where if you were, he definitely does have a cool design in that regard. All right, well, my number 2 is Smeargle or Smeagol or however you want to say it. It's the dog with the painter tail and kind of like the little what do they call that hat? I'm blanking.
The little beret.
Yeah, the beret. There you go. That artists wear. So it's kind of a neat concept in that regard. And I remember seeing him in the game, and I thought he was really, really cool. And beyond the fact that he's kind of weaker in terms of the other Pokemon, I just liked his look, and I liked the ability his sketch ability to basically not steal, but copy the opponent's move, but not in just like that battle. You could keep it with you the whole time, which in my opinion is awesome, but you got to be able to live through it. That was the only hard part, because I would want him to, obviously you only get 4 of them, so you want to get good attacks for him. You want to deck him out with the best stuff, but some of the good attacks will dominate you right away. So it was hard to do and hard to pull off, which kind of added a unique ability to this character. So I really liked him design wise and his, just his unique special ability of that. And like I said, I like dogs as animals, so that helped as well. All right, well, who's your number 2?
Number for me is a built on my other one of my favorites from Gen 1 is Crobat. I just really like Crobat because I didn't like Golbat at all. I really like Zubat, but I did not like Golbat. I thought he looked really dumb. And Crobat was the cool evolution of my favorite as a kid, so I was like, all right, Crobat is awesome.
Yeah.
And so it was just like, yeah, my favorite Pokemon looks cool now instead of that stupid Golbat.
Yeah.
So I just loved Crobat because he had like 4 wings, which made no sense. And then in later generations, he was actually good because you could like breed him with birds and give him Brave Bird somehow, which doesn't make any sense, but was really cool.
Yeah. All right, well, my number 1 is none other than Typhlosion. Maybe I'm just a sucker for starter Pokemon, but I think there's a bit of a charm when you start with a Pokemon at the very beginning of the game, so to speak, and you raise it all the way till its final evolution. So it's kind of been with you from the beginning. And that's not always, sometimes you just replace them with somebody that you really like. But for oftentimes, for me and most people, I would imagine, when you get the Pokemon at the start, they become a mainstay in your group because they're obviously going to be your most powerful Pokemon for the for the first part of the game at least. So I really like Typhlosion. I like his design. I'm not that into fire Pokemon. I like a few, but it's not my favorite type by any mean. But I thought Typhlosion, if I had to pick the ultimate fire Pokemon design, I'd go with Typhlosion because he's this big, almost bear-looking thing. He just looks really, really cool. He stands up on 2 legs. He's furry, but he has these flames coming out of his back, and it just looked really cool. And I thought he was a pretty good Pokemon in terms of power. So I really liked him as a character. Going into Silver, obviously.
I like Cyndaquil. I wasn't a big Typhlosion fan, but I thought Cyndaquil was really cute.
Yeah, I like Cyndaquil, but I don't know. I mean, my big problem with like some starters is the starters will look cute, and then when they get to their final evolution, they look bad. Or the starters will look awful, but their final evolution is bad. For me, Cyndaquil is one that looks cool from the start, or cute, and his second evolution and third evolution being Typhlosion, I think they all look good, and that's hard to come by in my opinion, where you like every evolution, but my favorite of the evolutionary chain is Typhlosion, so that's why I chose him.
Well, my favorite from Gen 2 is Sneasel. I always liked Sneasel when I was a kid because he was a Pokemon you could not catch until you beat the Elite Four, and he was on the mountain, Mount Silver, or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
And so he was like this elusive thing that I had like Pokemon cards of, and like I've seen pictures of him, and he was a dark ice type, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever, and he had claws, and I was like, I need to get Sneasel, so it was like my goal is to get Sneasel and use him, and then he was really bad because in the earlier generations they didn't have the physical special split, so like he was just a victim of very terrible move pool, so he was never actually good.
Yeah.
Like his best attack was like Slash, which was like crap. Like, but later on when he got like in the newer gens, when he can get Ice Punch and Night Slash, he's really good, especially if you evolve him. But when I was a kid, he was just like this elusive, awesome Pokemon that I really wanted.
All right, well, cool. All right, let's see here. Let's cover our least favorite Pokemon then. My least had to be, and this is tough because I think Gen 2 and Gen 1, I'd say, both have, out of all the generations, they have the least, in my opinion, have the least amount of kind of ones that don't really belong or just are awful. I feel like Gen 1 and 2 had the least amount of those people. So Gen 2, especially, I had a hard time figuring out who I liked the least out of them after looking back on them. But ultimately, I decided on Pineco. because Because it's just a pine cone. I mean, that's it. It's a pine cone. It's an inanimate object. It's just sitting. I mean, in real life, you don't even. It's just a pine cone. There's nothing cool about a pine cone. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's not like a poor design. It's a steel pine cone. I get it, with eyes, and it's kind of cool in that aspect. But as a character for Pokemon, I can't imagine many people's favorite being Pineco, just because it's so. I don't know. It doesn't do anything for me. Personality wise, there's nothing to offer in my opinion, and design, it's just so simple that I can't get behind it. So I chose Pineco.
I'm actually quite fond of Pineco.
Why?
I really like him because I like Forretress, and Pineco's just a step 2 Forretress, and I don't know. I think he has a nice design.
It's simple, yeah, but is that really that creative, though? I mean, it's just a pine cone covered in steel with 2 eyes buried deep down. Like,
I don't know, he's not my favorite, but I like Pineco.
Alright, well, I'm interested in seeing who you chose as your least favorite, then.
My least favorite is Igglybuff, because I hate Jigglypuff as it is, and Igglybuff just looks so unbelievably stupid that it makes me angry.
You just...
I just every time I look at it, I just get just uncontrollably mad.
Why though? Just because you don't like Jigglypuff, so adding another essentially another Jigglypuff to the game.
Yeah. Oh, it's I hated Jigglypuff, and it's adding a dumber looking and dumber name Jigglypuff to the game.
All right, well,
it's even more useless.
Yeah, I can understand that if that's your feeling. I don't mind Igglypuff or Jigglypuff. I think I actually kind of like Jigglypuff just because it's just funny. I think back to the anime where she'd constantly put people asleep and draw funny faces on people. It was absolutely ridiculous, but it's quite hilarious. And obviously, some Super Smash Brothers memories of Jigglypuff also makes her a little bit more likable, in my opinion. But either way, I could understand. If you didn't like Jigglypuff, then Igglypuff certainly isn't going to help that. Alright, well then let's move on to Gen 3. Why don't you start us off with your number 3?
My number 3 for Gen 3 is Absol. I always thought Absol was pretty cool. I didn't even know Absol existed until I encountered it in the game.
Yeah.
Like just walking after the tree city. And I was like, whoa, this Pokemon looks really cool, but it's probably like normal type or something boring. So I caught it anyway. And it was dark type, and its Pokedex status that it can sense natural disasters, and people think it's the cause of it, but it's just trying to warn people. And I thought that was really cool how it's a misunderstood Pokemon, and it's dark type. Now I just really thought it was a cool concept, so I definitely kept him in my team and used him.
All right. For my number 3, I went with Groudon or however you pronounce that. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
it's the cover. Yeah, it's the cover legendary. And see, I had a tough time picking my top 3 for this, just because this is where I started to drop off on Ruby and Sapphire. I played Ruby, of course, and I don't have as many fond memories. I still remember some of these Pokemon, but I don't have as fond of a memory of oh, this is my childhood, or this is nostalgic from the cartoon or anything like that. I did read the manga of Ruby and Sapphire, and obviously I did play the game. I can't remember how far I got. I know I got at least 3, I at least caught the legendary, so I know I got pretty far into it, but it's just, like I said, it's harder for me to remember, because I think this is at the point where I started losing interest, so I wasn't remembering as much as I was previously. But I do like the design of that legendary. I remember seeing the box for the first time when it was coming out, and really liking the way it looked, much more so than the one on Sapphire, which I can't even remember the name. And so yeah, he's going to be my number 3, even though I'm not that big, like I said, into fire types and stuff, but I do like what he is. Is he even a fire type?
He's ground, actually.
He's ground. Does he have a secondary?
No, I believe he's just pure ground.
Because don't you... If I remember,
because the whole story between Ruby Sapphire was Team Aqua was trying to expand the ocean, and Team Mag was trying to expand the land.
Exactly,
so he's ground type.
Yeah, but don't you find him in
You find him in a volcano type thing.
Yeah,
His ability like makes it sunlight out.
because I remember the volcano setting where you find him. I can picture it in my mind, so that's probably why I was leading myself to think of him as like a fire or like a lava type person that uses those kind of specials. But yeah, now that you mention it, it makes sense.
Yeah, I thought the same thing when I was a kid too. When I caught him, I was like, "Whoa, he's not fire. That's weird."
Yeah,
I
because he
expected
definitely
him to be
has the
fire.
he definitely has like appearance of like fire slash ground or something like that. But yeah, for sure, it makes sense now that you say that. But who's your third?
Well, you already know my third, so my second is Ninjask.
Oh yeah, I asked you first.
I think Ninjask is a really cool Pokemon, because he had like it was Gen 3 was where they introduced abilities, and I remember Ninjask just having the coolest. I thought was the coolest ability ever. He had Speed Boost, where his speed went up by one stage at the end of each round. So he was already fast, and he just got increasingly faster. And I just thought that was awesome. Like this little ninja bug just flying around ever faster, just like
Yeah,
zooming around the battlefield. So he always stuck in my mind as something really cool.
yeah, I can definitely see that. I'm with you on the ninja part for sure, but I'm just not that big into bugs. You know, I don't even like bugs in real life, so
Yeah.
he's definitely never a favorite of mine. For my second, I chose Blaziken.
Yeah.
He's
I can see
definitely
that.
for me, he's one of the more memorable of the game. Obviously, being the third evolution of Torchic, of one of the starters. So once again, it's a fire type slash fighting, and so even though I said I don't like many fire, but that's what kind of makes him special. Is he is one of the fire that I do actually like, and um, they're actually going off on a bit of a tangent here. It's rumored that it's not rumored, but they're going to be revealing a new Pokemon they're going to be revealing a new Super Smash Brothers character on Friday, and most people are assuming that it's going to be a Pokemon character because they've seemingly every time there's a game of a certain franchise coming out, they've been revealing a Super Smash Brother character, and it's always relating to that franchise, be it Luigi, um, the Link from Wind Waker, etc. And they've done that lately, so people are thinking it's going to be a Pokemon character, and one that I think would actually be pretty cool is Blaziken, because I mean, obviously, he is a fighting Pokemon, and I just think he fits that style of game pretty well. But obviously, that doesn't pertain to this. But I just thought, he is one of those characters that has a memorable look, and so that's why he's my second favorite. I don't like many fighting types, that's for sure. So he also has that unique factor to him. In fact, I think he's going to be the only fighting type I have on my entire list.
Yeah, I have a few, but well, Heracross is fighting. He's a bug fighting Pokemon, I believe he's the only one
Yeah.
I can think of at the top of my head, unless they added one in Gen 5 that I'm not thinking of.
Yeah, I have one more fighting, I think. But yeah, anyways, who's your number one?
My favorite from Generation 3 is Breloom. Now, Breloom is a Pokemon that I didn't even like acknowledge when I played it originally. It's
Yeah.
only when I went back to it like years later and found out about Breloom and how awesome he is, because he's a grass fighting Pokemon, but he's one of I think two Pokemon in the entire game that learns the ability or the move Spore,
Yeah.
which is 100% chance sleep,
Yeah.
which is amazing. And he can learn Focus Punch, which is a move that you have to like charge up, and if you get hit, you flinch. So what you do is you put him to sleep with Spore, which is guaranteed to hit, and then you just Focus Punch the next round and just obliterate them.
Yeah.
And
For
I
sure.
just thought that was the most awesome thing ever, just putting him to sleep and then punching him into oblivion with Breloom.
Yeah, that's definitely a smart strategy. I don't even remember that Pokemon, but that's definitely a smart strategy for sure. Being able to do something like that, having a character with those specials, yeah, I could definitely see the appeal there just from a gameplay standpoint. He definitely would pose a big threat to anybody.
Yeah, and gameplay aside, I also really like his design. He's like a mushroom thing that's
Yeah.
like grass fighting, but
Yeah, I
he's got
know.
like
Yeah, I now that you mentioned the mushroom thing, I picture him now. I remember that. All right, well, let's go on to the least favorite of Generation 3. Mine. Or no, I didn't even name my number one. I'm getting ahead of myself. My
Yes,
number
you are.
one is Torkoal. And here's why. Obviously, I alluded to earlier that I liked the turtle. Man, I have more fire on here than I thought I did. Like I've made a statement how I didn't even care for fire that much, but I was like the third fire person on here,
I have one fire on my
and that's two fire in just this one, and two fire that have had my number one spots twice in a row. Huh, interesting. But anyways, Torkoal, just because, like I said, I do like the tortoise and turtles, etc. I like those characters, and I just thought he was it's like a volcano inside of a turtle, and I thought that was really cool inside of his shell. It's just a cool concept like that. He looked like a war machine almost, a walking war machine, not like the Marvel War Machine, but just a war machine. He looked like this devastating Pokemon, and I just thought he had a really cool look. So that's pretty much what that's based off of. Not any gameplay or personality wise. I just thought I really dug his looks. I remember seeing him for the first time, and I was like, I want that Pokemon. I gotta catch that Pokemon.
Yeah, I remember seeing Torkoal, and I always thought that he evolved from like Mel,
Yeah,
but then he evolved into that camel thing, and I was like, "Where's Torkoal in the evolution?"
yeah,
It took me a while to figure out he was just his own.
yeah, exactly, for sure. All right, so now let's move on to least favorite.
My least favorite.
Okay,
Well,
yeah, I know you're first.
I'm first. Okay. My least favorite is Loudred. He just makes me so angry when I look at him, just like Igglybuff. Like I just can't stand him. His design is just so stupid to me. Oh, he's just a shouting Pokemon. I don't mind Exploud. I think he looks kind of cool, but Loudred is just every time I saw him like in a battle against a trainer, I just got angry.
See, that's how I feel about this one. It's purely cosmetic. It's purely I just do not like the aesthetics of this character, and that character being Nosepass because it just
Yeah,
looks so.
I can see that.
It's just it's like a human face with a giant nose. I just don't get it. Like I don't understand what the appeal of this is. Why one what appeal is there in a nose? First of all, I mean, I'm not saying people can't have a cute nose, but I've never heard of like a nose fetish where you're just like so obsessed with noses. Not that that's what Pokemon should be, but I'm just saying it doesn't have the cute factor in my opinion. It doesn't have this awesome badass cool factor to it. It's just a nose on a face, and it's like made of rock or whatever it is.
Well, I mean, he kind of looks like a Moai.
I don't know. To me it just looks so silly.
He looks like a Moai with just a big nose. I'm not saying he's
But
the
is that
coolest
a
Pokemon.
is that a Pokemon you want? When I think and we're starting to get to that point where I'm gonna get into my little mini rants of is that what you really want in a Pokemon though? Like you really want a face with a big nose as your Pokemon? When I think Pokemon, I think Pocket Monster. I think animals or monsters or creatures or ghosts or even sometimes objects. But really, you want a face, a nose as your Pokemon? Like whose favorite
Well, would
Pokemon
you
is
rather have
Nosepass?
Would you rather have Probopass, his evolution that has a mustache and a bigger nose?
No. That's my point though. It's just silly. But anyways, I'm not gonna go too long on that. To me it's like it looks so silly. Who's gonna enjoy that? That's just there to like fill a spot in my opinion. Every Pokemon should serve a purpose or be there because it looks really cool and somebody will love that. But who is gonna like that? But I'm sure there's somebody, but to me I can't imagine any sort of large group of people enjoying that Pokemon for any reason. All right, well let's jump into Gen 4. We have reached the Diamond and Pearl.
Yep. How about you start us off with Gen 4?
Okay, my number 3 is Dialga. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No. Who's that again? Yeah, the legendary.
Yeah, Dialga looks really, really cool in my opinion. once again, I didn't even play Diamond and Pearl, so I'm just gonna get that out of here. This is the first game first and only generation that I didn't even play at all. I skipped Diamond and Pearl. I was so burned out at that point and just lost interest in. I was completely all about Halo for a long time, so I didn't even get these. But looking back on just based on designs, I like Dialga's a lot. I think he just looks really sleek, really cool, really badass, and like I said, he's one of those characters that jumps out from the page at you, and he's just like, that looks cool, that looks awesome, that looks like somebody I want to kick somebody's ass with. And that quality, like I said, you either gotta have the really cute Pokemon, you gotta have the Pokemon with tons of personality thanks to the show or the manga, or you gotta have the Pokemon that, is just pure badass looking. And Dialga has that pure badass factor.
He's definitely my favorite out of Palkia and what's his name? Giratina.
Yeah, I'd agree. And obviously I did because he's on my 3, and the other 2, spoiler, aren't on my top 2.
Yeah, well, my third is Lucario. I think Lucario's a really cool Pokemon just because he was a fighting type and a steel type, but his his highest attack was special attack. So he introduced, this is Gen 4, where they introduced the special physical split. So he had like a myriad of special moves like Psychic, Dark Pulse, Shadow Ball, and he also got Aura Sphere, and he was one of the very few Pokemon that got Aura Sphere that was a fighting special move that always hit, and I always thought Aura Sphere was so awesome. It was like a little, like when I saw it, I haven't watched any of the newer ones, but I watched the Lucario movie because my little brother was watching it, and when he used Aura Sphere in the anime, like the Dragon Ball Z, little charge up Kamehameha thing, I was like, man, that's awesome. And I was like, I need to use Lucario. So that's where Lucario got my third, and I thought he was always cool.
For sure. All right, my second is Leafeon, and I'm not a big fan of having Eevee, given Eevee all these what am I trying to say? Like an evolution essentially to every single type there is. Because what are we up to? Like 18 types now, with the new fairy type added in the next game. Correct? 18. Does that sound about right?
That sounds a little much. Let me think for a minute.
Because you have what? Bug, poison, flying, normal, rock, ground, steel, fire, ghost, dark, water, grass.
Yeah, it is 18 with fairy.
Okay, that's what I thought. I thought I remember reading that not too long ago. Well, anyways, my point is, are we going to do an Eevee evolution for all of these? And obviously it's based off the stone, etc., that she can get. But, beyond like Jolteon, Vaporeon, and which one? The fire one?
Flareon?
Flareon, thank you. Beyond those, which I like those. And I don't get me wrong, I like some of these other ones. It's just I think it's going to get a little overdone quick. But with that being said, not to be a hypocrite or anything or go back on what I just said, I do like Leafeon, and I do like some of her other ones. But Leafeon to me stands out because it really takes the shape of what she is, trying to represent. The leaves, I like how the ears go into the leaves, the tail goes into a leaf, the body, it's just like, it really shows, it has a great unique appearance to it is what I'm trying to say, and it definitely stands out appearance-wise. And I like grass types, so there's that. So I really like that, and that would be my reason for that. I just really, I dig the look of this evolution of Eevee.
I agree. I liked Glaceon and Leafeon, and I actually like all Eevees. I think the Eevee going to a bunch of different evolutions is a neat concept, and I don't really mind if they add on more, like they just did with Sylveon and the new fairy type. So I'm definitely not.
How many does she have at this point?
There's Flareon, Jolteon, Vaporeon for the first three.
Umbreon.
Then Umbreon and Espeon. and then Leafeon,
Nine.
Glaceon, and now Sylveon.
Okay, so it's like what, like 8 or 9?
Uh, wait, 3, 6, 7, 8. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, I do like them. I just think 18, if they're really gonna. I'm not saying they will, and they're not saying they will either. Obviously, it depends on the stone that you give them. But, anyways, I digress. Who was your number 2?
My number 2 for Gen 4 is Yanmega. I liked Yanma from Generation 2, but he was really weak and underwhelming and didn't have anything going for him. I just thought he was pretty cute. And then they brought him back like full force with Gen 4 with Yanmega, and they gave him one of the best abilities in the entire game with Tinted Lens, where it doubles the power of not very effective moves. So it basically it makes non-effective moves like normal damage. So it just gives him the biggest type spread imaginable. And I thought that was the coolest thing. And he's got a really good special attack, and he gets a really good amount of moves like Bug Buzz and the special flying move. I can't remember the name of. He's just a very well-rounded Pokemon with a really good move pool and excellent ability, good stats, and he looks awesome. So I just like all around an awesome Pokemon.
Yep.
Sorry, the chair is all creaky. I'm trying to adjust.
Yeah, well.
Sorry, listeners.
Anyways, all right, well, my first is Lucario, for the reasons you mentioned earlier. I never watched the Lucario movie, but mainly for his time in Super Smash Bros. Brawl. And
I completely forgot he was in Super Smash Bros. For some reason.
Yep. And so I thought he was really cool there. I looked at him as, dear God, are you making enough noise?
Sorry.
But anyways, basically I saw him as like the new Mewtwo. I don't know if that's because he was pretty much taking Mewtwo's spot in Super Smash Bros. Or what, and the Psychic attacks. I do like Psychic type Pokemon, so that helps. But yeah, that's why I like Lucario. Anyways, go.
Well, he wasn't Psychic.
What?
He wasn't Psychic.
I know, but he has a lot of Psychic moves, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, he does get like he has the telepathy too, where he can talk into people's hearts or whatever.
Yeah.
But first for me for Generation 4, and my all-time favorite Pokemon is Rotom. I love Rotom. Rotom is like the perfect Pokemon to me. He's Ghost Electric, which are two types that I really like. Electric being my favorite, and his concept is really cool, how he invades appliances and takes some control of them. And when you meet him, he's taking control of a TV, and he comes out of the TV and attacks you. And he's really cute. He's like a really simple design with he's like a little ball with little electricity coming out of him, and just like all around, like I just absolutely love him. Everything about him, his design, his typing, his attacks, and his gimmick, so to say.
Yeah. All right, well, here's my least favorite. Burmy. He looks stupid. He looks stupid. I don't get the point of him. He just looks silly.
I think Worm Adam's a little dumber looking than Burmy, but I can agree with you.
Yeah. Anyways, what's your least favorite? Less said about him, the better.
My least favorite is the fan favorite, least favorite, Bidoof. I just can't stand him. Every time I look at him, ugh. He's just the dumbest looking Pokemon with the dumbest sound ever for his cry. Every time I see him, I just want to just remove him from the earth and hope he doesn't return.
All right, well, let's go into Gen 5 then. Go ahead and start us off with your number 3.
My third favorite for Gen 5 is kind of in the same vein as Heracross earlier, is Volcarona. It's the fire bug moth Pokemon. I thought his design looked really cool, how he was just this big, imposing moth, and I think moths in general are pretty cool. And just how he was so powerful that he was in like the higher tier of Pokemon, like an almost legendary Pokemon. and it's just like a bug Pokemon getting to that ranks is just a little personal victory, and it's just really awesome.
Yeah. All right. And my number 3 is Caracosta. Once again, the turtle theme, the tortoise theme, etc. I really like the look of this Pokemon. He evolves from, just pretty much a generic looking turtle or tortoise or whatever.
I think
And
he's like a little, like a little ocean turtle.
yeah, exactly. It's the bigger type turtles, yeah, like you said, you find in the ocean. Anyways, but the Caracosta, the evolution, looks absolutely awesome. He's like a walking tank, so to speak. He just has all this like almost armor looking on with this shell, of course, and he just looks like this old, experienced, like you said, ocean turtle. And I really dig that look. He looks like he's seen some crap. I like the blue look to him, and like I said, I like the armor look to him. So I just think that's a really cool. Plus, he's a water/rock type, which I dig as well.
Definitely a good pick. Not my favorites, but he's certainly not someone I dislike.
Yeah. All right, who's your number 2?
My number 2 is Scrafty. I think Scrafty is pretty awesome because it's like he's like a hood gangster type Pokemon. That's he's got his pants sag and he's a dirty fighter. He's dark fighting type, which is a really interesting typing. And he's looks like he's chewing his bubble gum, and he just looks like a hoodlum. I don't know. He's just cool how he's like with his pants sagging. It's just kind of dumb, but it's at the same time it's pretty entertaining. And he has some good attacks, and he's really high defense, really high attack, and he's just pretty overall good Pokemon to fight with. And I like his design, how he's like a lizard and he's gangsters looking.
Yeah. All right. Number 2 for me is Beartic. And this is the polar bear. It's the evolution of Cubchoo. And it's a polar bear. And polar bears have been my favorite animal for at least 8 or 9 years now. So I've been a real big fan of them. And finally, Black and White introduced, which I didn't even get this Pokemon just because I didn't play that long into it to actually see it. I wish I had, and I'm looking forward to X and Y just to be able to get this, hopefully, Pokemon and train them. But just based on the appearance of this is exactly what I would want from a polar bear Pokemon. He looks big, he looks badass, he's an ice type, and he has like an ice beard almost, which looks really cool. And he's just big and intimidating, so I really dig that about him as a Pokemon. So yeah, my number 2 is going to be Beartic.
Yeah, Beartic's pretty cool. I liked his pre-evolution, the little Snubchew, how he's cute, how he has a little ice drip coming from his nose, and he's just a little bear.
Yeah. All right, well, what's your number 1?
My number 1 is Ferrothorn, who is kind of an odd pick. I don't really see many people with their favorite being Ferrothorn, but I really like him because he reminds me of the Spore boss from Super Metroid, and Super Metroid is one of my favorite games. Yeah. And I just think he's really cool looking. He's just like a dangling metallic plant with like little, I don't know, spiky ball things. He's just a really cool looking Pokemon in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. All right, and my number 1 is Cubchoo, actually. Hence why. Yeah, hence why I saved him for first rather than putting him above Beartic, because I really do like the Cubchoo better than Beartic, just because, I mean, polar bears are cool, but baby polar bears are just absolutely adorable. And
yeah, like I just love his little frozen.
Yeah, exactly. And that's he just looks so cute. Like, in my opinion, Cubchoo could quite possibly be one of the cutest Pokemon that I've ever seen, because he has all the adorableness of a puppy, and he has that little, like you said, the little snot thing coming down that's frozen. So it just looks so cute. And like I said, baby polar bears are just absolutely cute. Like, it just melts your heart anytime you see one in real life. But in this image of him, and him as a character is really cool. So I haven't watched any of the anime in years and years and years, so I haven't seen, if this character is represented in the current black and white anime or anything like that. So if he is, I hope they do it justice. But yes, I really like the design of Cubchoo.
I'm sure they have, because I think they try to feature every Pokemon in at least one episode.
Yeah. All right, well, cool. And then let's go into our least favorite of number 5.
Least favorite, and probably my least favorite of all the Pokemon ever, is Watchog. I think Watchog is the worst designed Pokemon I've ever seen. I know I've said it like a million times, like whenever I see a Pokemon, I just get really angry. But this Pokemon just like invokes like a primal sense of just unadulterated, like just extreme anger every time I see it. Like his stupid eyes, his stupid little stripes on his, like the bottom of him. I just hate him. He always has super fangs, so he always depletes your team to half health, even if you're like way overpowered than them. It's just, I hate Watchog, and they always seem to have one. The what do they call it? The Team Plasma? They always seem to have at least one Watchog, and I just get so infuriated whenever they throw it out.
My least favorite is Garbodor. I chose him over the ice cream because ice cream at least has the cute factor, which I don't like inanimate objects being Pokemon. I don't like the lamp. The lamp already at least has a little bit of value to it because it's a ghost, so that makes a little bit more sense. And has the creepy factor of it being a ghost, like a ghost lantern. I can see that. I thought about it for a little bit. That makes a little bit more sense. I still don't like it, but it's a little bit less of a dislike from me personally. But when I look at the ice cream cone and the Garbodor, excuse me, because that's what that Pokemon is. It's pure garbage.
It's just a big pile of garbage is all it is.
And
both literally and
figuratively. Exactly. But when I look at the ice cream cone, one thing that does piss me off about the ice cream cone is it has 2 evolutions. You don't have just the one ice cream cone. You don't have the second evolution. You have full-on double scoop ice cream cone Pokemon. What is the point of that? Who is going to take the time to use this Pokemon and get it all the way to its final stage? Why would you do that over the 600-something Pokemon that they have, or whatever it is now? So why would you choose an ice cream cone? Why would you want Mr. Double Scoop to be what you throw out to battle all these other cool badass Pokemon? I just don't get that.
I use the ice cream cone in my party in Black and White too.
I'm sure you did.
I think the first one's really cute. It's adorable. I was just a little ice cream.
See, that's the kind of stuff that pisses me off, though, because when you're trying to get into a battle, when you're like putting Typhlosion versus Lucario, or you're putting all these big beasts together, or even some, whether they're beastly in speed, beastly in power, beastly in defense. It's like you have all these Goliaths battling, or these cutesy things, but then you throw in an ice cream cone. It's not just cute, it's an ice cream cone. Seriously? But the reason why that's not the worst, or my least favorite, is because the only way you get worse than an ice cream cone is if you literally just give us garbage. You throw us trash. How do you expect anybody to like garbage? There is no creativity in garbage. That's the problem with it. It's garbage. And if you give us a Pokemon that even has the name Garbodor or Garbodor or whatever you're trying to say, I'm pretty supposed to be it's Garbodor because it's garbage that smells like shit. So if you're going to give us that, then don't expect me to like it because it's garbage. It's exactly what you call it. It's exactly what it is. I'm going to call it as I see it. It's pure garbage. It's such a waste. Why would you make that Pokemon? What are we going to have, tampon? Use tampon Pokemon? Like, it's disgusting. It's disgusting. It's just a pile of garbage.
I agree. Garbodor is one of the worst. If Watchog wasn't in the game, I'd say Garbodor is the worst. But
See, Watchog pisses you off just because it's annoying to face and it's annoying to go up against because everybody seems to have it.
and it's annoying to look at because
Yeah.
I hate its design. And I
But
don't
but
like
this is
looking
beyond just poor design. This is poor creativity. This is the bottom of the barrel. It's garbage. It's like Stickman. Like it's just like when you run out of ideas, you give us garbage. You literally gave us garbage. So when people say, "Wow, that's a garbage Pokemon," it's literally a garbage Pokemon. Like it's not even a term. It's not even a phrase. You're not even insulting it because you're calling it what it is. It's garbage. So that has to be the least favorite of the entire series because it's garbage. Just say that. It's garbage. Just say it to yourself. It's a garbage Pokemon. It's a Pokemon made of garbage. Why would you do that?
Yeah, it's complete rubbish.
That's ridiculous rubbish. Yeah.
Isn't it pre-evolution called Trubbish, I believe?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Well, its pre-evolution isn't that bad.
No, I'm not as pissed off by that, but the big pile of garbage is just stupid. Like
Yeah, like Trubbish he's like a garbage bag, yeah, but he like has like a definable like presence. And then you just get Garbodor, who's literally an abomination, just a heap of garbage.
it's just so dumb looking. It's just
Yeah,
garbage.
I agree.
It's just garbage with a mouth and eyes. It's just so silly. I don't know who thinks of that. Like, you have to think these guys are just sitting in a room coming up with these ideas, and one of them bounces off the others. Hey, let's just make a pile of garbage. We haven't done that yet.
No, what happened is someone was taking out the trash and it probably split and like spilled out garbage, and they're like, "Hey, that's our Pokemon."
Yep. We need one more. We promised 100 blah blah blah, so we got to give it to them. So let's give them literal garbage. All right. Well, that wraps up the top 3 and the least favorite. So then let's do an overall top 10 just in case there were some in certain generations that got left out just because they couldn't make the top 3. All right. So starting off number 10, I'll start it. My number 10 was Cubchoo. He's new to me, but the fact that he's a baby polar bear, I instantly love him. So he has to make my number 10.
My number 10
And
is
sorry to Smeagol, because you're the one that got bumped out. So he's my honorable mention.
Smurgle.
Smeagol.
Smeagol.
I used to always I know I used to always call him Smeagol, but yeah, so that's why I can't get over that name. So I have to say both every time. But anyways, sorry to him because he got bumped out in favor of Cubchoo.
Yeah, my favorite is, or 10th favorite is Ninjask. I'm not a big fan of ninjas. It's not my thing.
Boo.
But he's a bug Pokemon. He's cool. He's fast. I like him. He's 10. Easily top 10.
All right, you just have a whole band going on over there, don't you?
I got a creaky chair, man.
Number 9.
Got it from Goodwill.
Well, you should get your money back. Because whatever you paid for it, however little.
It was $30. You cannot beat that.
You can get a better chair for $30.
Not a reclining computer chair.
Oh. Sure, but you could.
That farts every so often, apparently. Oh, jeez.
See, okay. I apologize to all the listeners because I'm not going to edit this, so this is purely on Tyler Swanson, so you can blame him for why our podcast sounds like absolute crap. But anyways.
It sounds like absolute Garbodor.
Yep. We're the Garbodor of podcasts, thanks to his chair.
Yeah, that's the title. That's the title of this Garbodor of podcast.
Yeah. The number 9 Pokemon on my top 10 is Tauros.
Interesting.
Because I like normal Pokemon simply because you can teach them anything. And I found Tauros to be one of the most useful Pokemon in the first generation, but also even going into like Silver and Soul Silver, etc. He was so useful because if you used him right, you could teach him really, really, really good moves. You just had to be picky. You had to use your TMs very strategically, and you had to train him very strategically, but he's a very good Pokemon in my opinion. I
Yeah,
think
Tauros is not one of my favorites, but I don't dislike him at all.
I think he makes a great addition to any team. I mean, he's very versatile in that aspect. But anyways, what was your number 9?
My number 9 is Scrafty, just because he's cool, but he's not like top 3, top 5,
Yeah.
top whatever.
Yeah, it's how I feel about Tauros. I mean, I like him, but he's not going to make my top 3 or top 5, but he's up there. All right, well, my number 8 is Typhlosion. For all the reasons I mentioned before, out of the second generation, he was my favorite just because I really, really liked his design. I still do. Even in Soul Silver, I chose him obviously, and I always kept him on in favor of Charizard. I kept him over Charizard as my fire type.
Definitely, I like him a lot better than Charizard. I'm not a big Charizard fan.
Yeah, I don't think either of us are.
My number 7 is Honchkrow. Honchkrow is just
What about
so
your number
awesome.
8?
Huh?
What about your number 8?
8. My number 8 is Honchkrow because he's like an Italian gangster Pokemon. He's got like that big, huge fedora, and he's the boss of all of the Murkrows and all the other birds. And he's like a mob boss Pokemon, and that's just so awesome to me.
Yeah, he definitely has that cool appeal to him. Like you said, the mob boss for sure. My number 7 is Gengar. Just because, once again, when it came to the first generation and even playing up till Soul Silver, if I was going to have a ghost Pokemon on my team, I always really liked Gengar. Just for his moves, I like his look, I like his personality, and I just dig him as the character that he is. I mean, in the original first generation, for ghost Pokemon, you didn't have a whole lot to choose from as you do now. And you were definitely right about Haunter. He definitely has that more menacing look to him. But even Gengar, you look at Gengar and he definitely has that kind of creepy look to him. That smile, the eyes, and just his overall shape. He just has presence to him. So I really like Gengar.
I can agree with you there. I mean, he looks ghostly. But
Yeah.
I think Haunter looks a little cooler in my opinion.
Yeah. I don't agree, but I see what you're.
Okay.
No, I see your point though.
You don't have to be a jerk about it.
I see your point. I understand.
For me, for number 7 this time is I really like Skarmory. I always thought Skarmory was so cool when I was a kid. Like he's steel flying bird.
Yeah.
Like it was just an awesome Pokemon.
Yeah, I definitely understand that. I'm not that big into the birds. I mean, I have a couple that I like. One that's coming up soon, actually. But I can definitely see the appeal to there, like an armored up bird. Anyways, my number 6 is Golem. And the reason for Golem is because, one, I like his moves. I like that he can learn, what's that, Earthquake or something? Or Explosion?
Oh,
which one am I thinking of? It's one of those two. I think he can learn one of those correctly. You got
Explosion is where he kills himself.
Okay, well, it's not that one. It's one that you can't turn him into Golem until a certain level, otherwise you don't learn it or something like that. You got to keep him as Geodude or something to the effect.
I think he learns Earthquake later on. I'm not sure. I never used Geodude because I never liked him, and I never cared for Graveler or Golem myself.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Graveler, and Geodude's just alright to me, but I really like Golem. I've always liked his look. I had a toy of him when I was younger. I was just always a fan of his look. I don't know why. I just am. But anyways, yeah. And he also has that unique factor that he's one of the few Pokemon that you actually had to trade to get the evolution of. So that was kind of neat. But anyways, yeah, I like Golem for my number 6.
Well, my number 6 is just going to be Breloom. I just love Breloom. He's such a cool guy.
That's all you have to say about him.
As well, I already went into detail about him, but like
Yeah.
as me and my sister call him, Broloom.
Brolum.
Broloom. Such a bro, man.
It's gotta be that bro. All right, well then my number 5 is Articuno. It's the only bird that's gonna make my list.
I did like Articuno, but I always like Zapdos a little better.
And that's how I feel about kind of Zapdos. I like Zapdos, definitely over Moltres, but I always liked Articuno more, just because I prefer Ice type. I always thought he was very majestic looking with the kind of the sparkles trailing him. I always enjoyed trying to catch him in the games, being in those caves next to in all the islands and all the Seafoam Islands, right? Which islands do you find
that
him off
was
of?
only Fire Red, and he was in the. It wasn't called Seafoam.
Yeah, I just can't remember what they're called.
Yeah, but it was in that island place. I don't know what they're called.
I don't know. I don't know what they're called. Anyways, I just enjoyed trying to get to him. I enjoyed trying to catch him, and I've just always enjoyed having him. He's my go-to ice Pokemon in the first and second generation. So, anyways, that's my number 5.
Well, my number 5 is going to be Crobats. Like I said before, it was I don't think an improvement on Zubat, but Zubat I can use later in the game, essentially.
Yeah. All right. Well, no, my number 4 is actually Blastoise, and that is simply because out of the 3 starter Pokemon in the very first game, out of all the evolutions beyond the starters, beyond the first stage of each of them, of the actual second and third evolutions, I really liked Blastoise the most over Charizard or Venusaur, etc. Just because I really dug the way he looked. Once again, the turtle aspect. I preferred Squirtle of the 3 the most, and I enjoyed his moveset the most. I really like water types, ice types. So, either way, I really like Blastoise.
He was pretty cool as a kid because he just had like guns on his back.
Yeah, he's a badass.
Is this number 4?
Yep, this is 4.
Number 4 for me is Heracross. It's just he was one of my favorites as a kid. I always loved Heracross because I could actually use him. I didn't have to wait till I beat the game to get Sneasel, and he was just awesome. His attacks and how he was fighting Bug, and he was like a real threat throughout the game.
Yeah. All right, well, now it's to the top 3, and my top 3 are going to sound very familiar. But anyways, my number 3 is Bulbasaur.
Oh.
For all the reasons I've already said.
Well, my number 3 is Zubat for all the reasons I said.
And number 2 for me is Squirtle.
Number 2 for me is Sneasel.
All right, and number 1 of all time, of all the Pokemon, as I said, ever since I was a kid, my number 1, first one I ever saw, and the one I thought I had most personality and related to, and just enjoyed thoroughly watching the show, Meowth. Old number 52. Still remember the number.
I didn't see that one coming at all. I'm actually a little shocked.
Well, I'm glad I could shock you.
My favorite of all time, ever since I was 18 years old, and forevermore, is Rotom.
What?
Yeah.
Rotom?
It's my favorite Pokemon.
The hell is Rotom?
I told you, the electric ghost Pokemon.
You didn't tell me that.
I can't have a Gen 4 as my favorite Pokemon.
Well, earlier, when I tried to guess what it was, you lied to me.
No.
Yeah, you did. I didn't guess Rotom.
Oh, Sneasel's my second.
But you said he was your first earlier.
I know, but I thought about it, and it's not.
Okay. I guess in the last hour you changed your mind.
Well, I had to think about it, and yeah, I realized that Rotom is my favorite. He's
All right.
everything I want out of a Pokemon. Like, he's electric, and he has a really nice design. Like, because there's not a lot of good electric Pokemon, unfortunately. I mean, there's some cool ones, like the Eel one from the newest generation is pretty cool, especially since he has Levitate, so he has literally no weakness. He can't be hit by ground, his only weakness.
Yeah.
And, like, I can't remember his name, but the flying squirrel electric Pokemon is worthless, but it's cute. No, there's just not a lot of good electric Pokemon.
Yeah. I'll agree with you there. There isn't a lot of good electric. I just never would have guessed your favorite's a guy that jumps through a bunch of things.
Yeah, I love Rotom. He's just so adorable. I got my Rotom plushie right here, and I'm looking at it. That was the best Christmas present I ever got from my sister.
He's definitely very versatile, but I don't know.
I don't ever use his alternate forms because I don't think they're cute enough as his original form.
All right. Well, there you have it. Number 1, Rotom. All right, and since we're already going on hour and 9 minutes, much longer than I thought we'd take, we're not going to get into too much more, but just to but just to cap everything off and wrap things up, what's your favorite type? I think you pretty much said it already.
Yeah, definitely electric, closely followed by bug and dark.
And my favorite is ice, closely followed by water, and grass, and somewhat normal as well. Those would, if I had to pick a top 4, that'd be it.
Yeah, I'd definitely say electric, bug, dark would be my top 3.
Yeah. All right. Well, we are very different, even to the types, which is very cool. So at least, hopefully the listeners enjoyed that, because we didn't, unlike, I'm sure a lot of Pokemon fans, I mean, obviously with so many Pokemon, you're going to get a lot of varying answers, but at the same time, you're going to get a lot of the same answers, because a lot of people like very similar Pokemon. Yeah, Charizard and Pikachu and Mewtwo and Mew.
I don't like to, actually.
I'm just saying, that's what is commonly going to be said, and we didn't even list any of those as our favorite. Not even in a top 10. But anyways, so hopefully the listeners enjoyed that, so they can hear some different ones for a change, and maybe one of theirs that was offbeat is one of ours that we like, or not. Either way, write into the comments section, actually, because I actually am very curious what other people like, or if you want to try and defend Garbodor.
Well, we can cap this off with the one thing we do have in common.
Our favorite game.
What's your favorite game?
Soul Silver. Yep. Exactly. I mean, it's hard to beat Soul Silver.
No,
that was the pinnacle of everything that was good about Pokemon. It offered a fan like me, because we're two different types of fans. You're a fan that has stuck with it pretty much the same throughout from the beginning, where I was a fan that dropped off after Ruby and Sapphire, or like halfway through Ruby and Sapphire, if we want to get specific, and then didn't pick back up until Soul Silver came along to recapture my interest in the series, and then reading the manga, and then playing Black and White, etc., and going on to X and Y. So I skipped a whole generation. So we're different fans in the sense that, one, you've stuck with it the whole time, and two, you also obviously like different types than I do, and you like different things in a Pokemon than I do. You go more for the cutesy, not always, but you're more accepting, I should say, of it, where I'm more of somebody that looks really cool. Not to say that I don't like cute Pokemon. I mean, my favorites are Meowth and Squirtle, etc., and I like Cubchoo, but it's just, we definitely have a different taste in it, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, the only thing we shared on were, was it Haunter and...
well, I like
Lucario.
Gengar.
Oh, no, you didn't put Haunter in any of yours.
Yeah, I like Gengar. But yeah, I think the only ones we had were Lucario. I think
were the only ones we had.
But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like you said, though, Soul Silver, definitely the best game thus far, in my opinion, just because it gave you the best of all worlds. Because as I was going on before I went in the direction of explaining why, is it offered the story of Silver all over again, but added on to it and had all the Pokemon for all the fans that have stuck with it. So you had all the Pokemon to catch for the first time. So there was definitely something there to it, and it just had some cool upgrades, and you could carry you had your Pokemon walking behind you, and just cool stuff like that. And it had the little games you could play with tapping on the screen, and all sorts of amazing stuff that it added onto. So I'm really excited for X and Y, but we're not going to get into talk on that. Maybe we'll do something separate to talk about that, but we're already at about an hour and 15 minutes, so we'll wrap this up. So hope you guys all enjoy the game. If we don't do another podcast talking about X and Y, just hope you guys enjoy the game this Saturday. And for the first time, we're getting a worldwide release, so everyone can enjoy it at the same time.
Well, we'll probably do an episode after our first impressions of the game.
Yeah, for sure.
After we get past maybe like the second leader or so.
Yeah, and just say who we like, and obviously give our impressions of the newer Pokemon. And pretty sure we're both choosing the same starter. So I'm also interested in knowing who you guys are going to choose for X and Y. I think it's obvious that both of us are going to choose Froakie, but I want to know who you guys want to choose and why. So write that in there as well as your top favorites. But anyways, we'll wrap this up. So I hope you guys have a good weekend. And if you want to email us or do any of that, which you won't, so I'm not even going to bother putting the email in there. Just write some comments, and there you go. So hopefully we'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.
Take it easy.